Hey friends, hey family, glad you're back today. This is Daily Bread with Pastor Q, Quentin Carter up here at Reed's Chapel, Church of God. I had to move the car, park it in the shade, so the sun comes through, it'll hit the phone and it'll overheat. But super glad to be back with you this week. Got a cool lesson. One of my favorites, just because it's just such a vital part of my life. This week's lesson, which we'll cap off, in our Sunday school lesson, it is justification by faith. Justification by faith, right? And that justification is a process where the Lord puts you pretty much in right standing. He justifies you, or He makes it just as if you had not committed a crime, right? It's almost like if you're, even though we in faith are not innocent, but if you were innocent and someone proves your case, you're finally justified. They've proved that you were right in the eyes of the judge and the defender is wrong. Well, even though we're wrong in the eyes of God, Jesus Christ comes down, dies on the cross. His blood covers us. And when we put faith in His name, He saves us, but He also justifies us, right? Granting us access to God, not by the works of the law, because we could never do it. He came to do that for us, but now by faith. When we believe, therefore, we are justified. We win the court case of between us and God when we have faith, because that is what God is requiring. And to deal with our sin, that's what Jesus came to do. So now in the court of God, we can stand before Him. We can win the case because we've been justified, just as if that sin was not ours, right? Jesus took it unto Himself, nailed it to a tree, and cursed it, right? And, it's original sin as well. We're born with that. So it is our dilemma in life. But, so this week's lesson is justification by faith, right? You cannot be justified by the law, by the letter, by being good enough. That's not how you're justified. It doesn't matter if you're, committed of a crime. You can't do better to be justified. If you've committed a crime, you gotta go do your sentence. The only way you're justified in the biblical sense is by having faith. It's how God always justified everyone, Old and New Testament. So, today's devotion is Abraham was justified by faith, obviously. We'll be reading Genesis 15, verses 1 through 6, because I've already talked enough in that the pre-context there. Let's go ahead and get right into this. Genesis chapter 15, and also this is right after Abraham has went to battle with these 5 kings and totally just wiped them all out. And I think it's called the Slaughter of the Kings or something like that. Abraham ends up getting into this war, the Battle of the Kings, and he wins, obviously. But when he's coming back through, there's this priest of God. His name is Melchizedek. I do not have time to talk about him. I'd love to. You can't, it's so long. Melchizedek is a very vague but interesting individual, but we know he served as the high priest in Jerusalem before, it was officially Jerusalem. But that's what he served as. And so Abraham, and he was an actual priest to the true God, like God the Father, the only one true God. And so he's a priest of God. Abraham, after the slaughter of the kings, comes to him, or they meet in the way, in the path, and Abraham, that's where the tithe comes from. Abraham gives him 10% of all of the spoils of victory, right? To offer to God, because he knew that he had God's favor. That's why he won the victory. So he offers up a portion of the spoil to the Lord, right? And to Melchizedek. So right after this, we see here in chapter 15, verse 1, it says, after these things, and that was that whole thing I just explained, the word of the Lord came to Abram. And small note here, at this time, his name is only Abram. Sorry. So he's not Abraham yet, he's Abram. In a vision, saying, fear not, Abram, I am thy shield, and thy exceeding great reward. And Abram said, Lord God, what wilt thou give me, seeing I go childless? And the steward of my house is this Eliezer of Damascus. And Abram said, behold, to me thou hast and Abram said, behold, to me thou hast given no seed, and lo, one born in my house is mine heir. So pretty much he's saying, this Eliezer, he's just a servant that was born here. He's my only heir because he's the only person who's been born in my house, but he's not even, he wasn't born of Sarai. And behold, the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, this shall not be thine heir, but he that shall come forth out of thine own bowels shall be thine heir. And he brought him forth abroad and said, look now toward heaven, and tell the stars, if thou be able to number them. And he said unto him, so shall they be thy seed, right? So shall they be thy seed. Let's see here, 1 second. Yeah. And so, that is a small portion there of how Abraham was walking, not by sight, but by faith. Pretty much an overlook of one story of Abraham. If you go to Hebrews 11, it'll really describe the faith that Abraham had. God told, and you got to remember, this is Abram, and Abraham. I'm just going to say Abraham because it's easier. And Hebrews 11 describes how he had faith, but it's important to note that God had not given the law yet. Moses was many hundreds years away from Abraham, okay? And so the law had not come. So this is just after the garden, after the flood, right? And everyone is kind of doing their own thing. Everyone's really gone astray. But the word of the Lord comes to Abraham. Well, Abram. I'm going to continue to struggle with that. And what happens is he believes it. It's not necessarily that it didn't go to other people. Abraham believed it. And we see in Hebrews 11 that God tells him to go into a different country, and he doesn't know where he's going, and has to just believe God that that's what he's supposed to do, and that's what he does. And he continues to be obedient to God. Hebrews 11 goes down. It said when he was tired, when he was well stricken in age, he went up to offer Isaac, right? Which was all foreshadowing of God the Father offering his Son, and for a substitution, but ultimately for our justification, right? And so, yeah, that is today's devotion. Sorry, I don't know. I'm just a little tired, I guess, and that reading was kind of out of place, because it's trying to show you that he's justified by faith. But I think it's important. Abraham is totally justified because he's walking with God, being obedient with God before law. And so what is there before the law? Oh, there's faith, right? So it's always been by faith. You're always in right standing with God, right relationship with God by faith and faith alone. You cannot do it by your good works. You can't do it by trying to keep the law. It has to be by faith. Remember that Abraham was operating by faith. There was no law. The law of God had not begun. It had to be faith. So Abraham was doing everything out of faith. Was he a perfect man? No. We read many instances where he was not. But what was he? He was a man of faith. He walked by faith, not by sight. That is what put him in right relationship with God. So have a wonderful Monday. This has been Daily Bread with Pastor Q. We will see you tomorrow. God bless you guys.